Hello and welcome to the climate update. We're going to go over some of the climate things going on across the world, just at an out of control situation that we're going to get into. Before I do that, we're going to talk about, and again, it's July 2nd, a little after 8 p.m. We got a severe thunderstorm here that looks like it might be hitting New Jersey. They do have a warning out for it. It looks like it might be hitting New Jersey. It doesn't look that impressive on the radar, though, but we'll have to see what happens with that, but nothing for Long Island. It's just because of the heat over there. The second thing we've got to talk about is Hurricane Barbara. Category, I believe it's Category 4 now. So it's in the Pacific. Look at that, perfect. We're gonna take a look at some satellite images here. Maximum sustained winds 120 knots, gusts up to 145 knots, and this is what the path from the Hurricane Center is. So we're going to look at this from the official Hurricane Center. This is in the Pacific now. So its movement is west-northwest at 13 miles an hour, maximum sustained wind 140 miles an hour. Wow. So this might wind up becoming a Category 5. The good thing is it's out in the middle of the ocean. It's not affecting anyone. That's the good news, but still a very strong storm. A very strong storm. So let's take a look at some satellite imagery from this storm here, and look at that. Just look at the form on this thing. It's really another really perfectly looking storm here. Wow. So that is really impressive right there. Look at that. I'll get my mouse out of the way just a couple more times. Look at that. Perfect. Perfect. Everything just looks perfect with this storm. It's just amazing how healthy it is. But that's we're gonna have to look at the ocean temperatures in that area and see why it's doing so well. And it looks like it's got a fairly large storm too in size as well. So we're gonna go and look at the MODIS site right now. Let's go and look at the MODIS site and take a look at it on the MODIS. I don't know if we actually, here it is. Here, yeah, that is a large storm. Look at that. Look at that. That is a large storm. If that storm was off the East Coast, it would cover the entire state of New Jersey, and that is a large storm for sure. Good news is not much going on in the Atlantic. That's the good news. But this storm here is, yeah, we're not going to get it in a later image, but that's, yeah, there it is again a little bit. You can see it a little bit there. Wow. Look at the outflow boundary. The thing is huge, too. Huge. The good thing is it stays out to sea. Looking at our area here, you see we have a lot of clouds around, and this is where it ties in with the fires. Yeah, the smoke is back, and if you felt weak and having trouble breathing today, I saw it on the satellite this morning, and you can see there's a cloud of smoke right here. This might be affecting it. This might be hitting our area. I'm not sure which fire this is coming from. This might have come from the fires going on in Fairbanks. I think they are coming from. Let me just see if we can get another image here. Yeah, I think these are coming from the fires around Fairbanks in Alaska, I think. But a lot of smoke here, and it's all being it's horrible with all these fires going on. It's nuts. That's one of them right there. And again, there was some smoke in the air. We'll look at the other satellite too. You'll be able to see some of the smoke as well. So, and you got this huge low here. And look at the ice is melting so quickly. We're gonna get into that too. I'm looking to see if there are any fires anywhere else going on here. Yep, looks like we have some fires in looks like northern Russia. Yep, there's some smoke here too as well. And with the heat, we're going to talk about the heat, and then there's some more smoke over here. So, yeah, lots of fires burning around the world because of the heat, for sure. And we're going to talk about that heat right now. Yes, France has hit an all-time record a couple of days ago, up to 114 degrees in France. In France, and you can see here they're talking about climate change and all this stuff that's going on. So a lot of heat over there in France, and we're gonna look at the Ventoux sky, and we're gonna go over there and take a look at it. Actually, We could use our Earth and Old School, I guess. Well, let's start off with the Ventus sky for North America. And you can see a lot of heat here, a lot of heat. We got 80s going all the way up into Hudson Bay almost. It's warm here too, though not as hot as it's been, so it's a little cooler. We got 60s and 70s over here. But for the United States, you can see most of the United States is dealing with heat. California too. Everything, a lot of above normal temperatures. The only area that obviously is staying cool is Flagstaff. It's in the mountains. But other than that, yeah, it's warm. And also, we're dealing with a lot of humidity across the country too. We look at these dew points. You will see here that dew points are 60s and 70s all the way up to Canadian border. Look at this. Look at this. Hudson Bay. We have dew points up near 70 degrees in parts. That's unheard of. It should never get that humid in Canada. No, that shouldn't happen. But the only area you see where the dry is out west. Again, you got to be out west. That's where you got to be, where it's dry. And again, it's all because of the jet stream. If we look at the jet stream here, which we'll look at right now, we'll use several tools here to show you the jet stream. But let's use this one first. You can see it's way up. You got this huge ridge here, just across the whole country. So it's keeping us in the heat. And you got another little jet stream trying to bring more moisture up from the Gulf of Mexico. And then over Europe, we got this huge ridge. So here we go. So let's take a look at this. You got a trough here. Look at this. Look at how kinked up this jet stream is already. You have a trough that's coming in. Looks like part of Europe is cool. But look at how narrow that trough is. So part of it's cool, but then part of it's very hot. So you have some heat really going up into western Russia and stuff. So the heat is more now in Russia than it was a couple of days ago. So let's turn this off and let's look at the Earth and Old School and take a look at. And here again is Barber right here. Look at that huge thing here. This huge storm over here. So you got that going on, but we're going to talk about the heat now that's been going on in Europe. And it's been quite impressive. So let's take a look at the current temperatures in Europe right now. Changes the temperatures. All right, right now it's not as bad, but I think it's nighttime there. So let's move this back 3 hours. Let's get this toward the daytime. All right, this is around the daytime. All right, so France, which is over here, 21.3 Celsius, 70. All right, so it's not too bad there. There's a trough over there, so it looks like they are having a trough. But they've been dealing with some really bad heat a couple of days ago. We're going to go back in a day and show you the heat that they've been dealing with. We'll go back a couple of days when they were in that really bad heat wave. Got to go back a couple of days. I think it was over here. I still don't think I have the time right. No, remember these times are 8 local. All right, here we go. So this is on the 27th here of June. A 92 degree reading in France here. 92 degrees. Alright, so 92 degrees, 101. This is France, alright, 101.2. So it's never supposed to be this hot in Europe. This is absolutely crazy. And what's going on is the heat is coming off the Sahara, and it's making its way into Europe. And the climate in Europe is actually becoming, if this continues, part of Europe could become a desert. You know, talking, there's already some desertification in the southern part of Spain. That could expand into France. That could expand into the other countries in Europe, which is really unheard of. And what makes this even worse is that if we change this to look at the dew points, this doesn't do dew points. All right, we have to look at the humidity. All right, that's why I wanted to use the Ventus Sky tool. If we look at the humidity, you'll see the humidity is higher in as this air goes over the Mediterranean. It goes over the Mediterranean and picks up more moisture. So not only are they dealing with 100-degree temperatures in places where it's never supposed to be hot. You got to understand something about France and Europe. A lot of those places don't have air conditioning because they never had heat there before like that. I mean, now all of a sudden with the flip of a switch, it's become like a tropical climate or semi-arid slash tropical climate, or I can call it a Mediterranean climate, which is usually more typical in southern Italy. But now they're experiencing that too, and it's done its damage to the ocean. So if we look at the ocean temperatures, sea surface temperature anomalies, you will see that the Mediterranean now has a lot of anomalies of, let's see, the water temperature is already 5 degrees above normal, so the ocean's heating up. That's going to add more moisture into the air and bring more humidity to France. I'm going to see if we can, we're going to look at this on Vent2 Sky 2 as well. And of course we have the anomalies off the east coast. Lots of water temperatures that are above normal across the area. And this is all, we're going to look at the jet stream on that day and explain to you what was going on in the jet stream. So let's take a look at the jet stream right now. And you will see this huge ridge right here over Europe, right here. This huge ridge. Let's see if we can see that a little easier. Let me get this out of the way, and let me get this out of the way. So you see you have this huge ridge over here, over Europe, right here. This ridge is going almost all the way up into Iceland. And so this is bringing air up from Africa, from the Sahara. This air is not supposed to make it this far north, and it's making it really far north into Europe, which is crazy. And we can move this along by one day. We'll do one day, and you can see this ridge progress. There is the ridge on the 29th. Alright, so here is the ridge on the 29th over Europe. And you will see here that, once again, you have this heat just coming right out of Africa all the way up into places that it's not supposed to go. And if we, again, look at the temperatures, you'll see the heat. Actually, we got to put this down at the surface. So, you'll see the heat again here. 86. It looks like it's a little better at this time. So it cooled off a little bit, but still got 90s. Even in the UK, it's hot. 81. It's not never supposed to be hot in the UK. Let's look at Sweden. You know, I mean, it's not supposed to be like that up there. And you also have heat in Russia too. So we're going to have to look at that too. We're going to use several tools to look at what's going on in Europe, because this is historic what's going on as far as the heat in Europe. It's absolutely insane what's going on over there. What can I say? But let's change this to now and take a look at what's going on now. Luckily, right now in Europe, it's not too bad. You got to remember, I think it is nighttime there. So if we, but right now, not too bad. Actually, looks like it's cooled down quite a bit. So that's fortunate. And that's because they're now in a deep trough. So you have these deep troughs and ridges in the jet stream because of the jet stream is becoming very wavy because it's weakening, and it's getting wavy because, again, the Arctic is warming. So we're back at Earth Null. Yeah, we're still at earthnullschool.net looking at today's jet stream over Europe. Just look at the mess that it's in. I mean, it's just kinked up, like tangled up. What a mess it is. And this mess, now, fortunately, at least, the ridge has died down a little bit. So France and some of these other areas are cooling off a little more. But the heat is now in Russia. Look at this deep trough, and then it's going all. Look at all this mess of a jet stream here. This is what we're dealing with across the whole northern hemisphere. Is this huge mess of a jet stream. We're going to look over North America here right now. All right, and got this again, the same huge kinked up jet stream, huge ridge. And where the ridges are, you're dealing with the heat, and where the troughs are, you're dealing with cooler weather, but also storminess and rainfall. So it's a lot of just very unsettled situation, very abnormal situation. And again, this is because the Arctic is warming, and that reduces the difference between the poles and the equator, which weakens the jet stream, makes it more wavy and more weaker, and these patterns just get stuck, and that's what's going on. And that pattern was stuck over Europe for quite a while, and it could very well come back again and intensify the ridge again. But right now, it looks like France is today. It looks like they're in the 70s. Oh yeah, right here. Although they're dealing with 80, so still probably a little above normal. London a little cooler. but the heat is now more in Russia. So you have areas of Siberia here. This is way up in Siberia. Look at the heat just being brought all the way up to here. I believe this is Latvia. I don't know. I'm sorry if my geography isn't good. You got to remember this doesn't display the this thing doesn't seem to want to display the names of all the countries here. But whatever. This is a spot that's not supposed to get very hot at all, and this is like way into northern Russia here. I believe this is just Russia over here. So, but again, boreal forest over here, and it's probably where the fires are burning. There's probably some fires here, again, because it's hot. It's hot. Now we're going to go back, and I'm curious of what the dew points are there. So this one can display dew points, which is important to display. Yeah, a little humidity. Look at that. Humidity all the way up into this area, which is like Siberia, I believe. This should never be that humid there. That's crazy. And it is kind of humid in France, too, a little bit. So it's still warmer than normal. Still a big problem. And now we're going to turn back the clock. So we're going to make temperature. We're going to go back to the 27th. So we're going to go to past days. And we're going to look at the 27th when they had the heat wave. Here we go. So here is the 27th. Alright, so you see temperatures, 99. Zoom this in a little bit so you can see the heat that's over France. Paris. It's not supposed to be hot here. A lot of places in these areas don't have air conditioning. It's Brussels. Brussels had a lot of heat too. A lot of these places don't have air conditioning. You know, that's the thing. A lot of them don't. Here's Germany. Alright, a lot of these places don't have air conditioning. So Germany didn't look quite that bad that day, but some areas looked a lot worse. We can change the time around a little bit. And so yeah, I think I have to move it more into the afternoon to get. This is tricky because I don't know if this goes by local time over there. It's local time, my time, I believe. So in Paris, yeah, you had a lot of heat. You know, a lot of heat, and then other parts of France further south, you had 100-degree heat. All right. You know, these are places that aren't supposed to get that hot. Only relief is in the mountains, like here, the Northern Mountains of Italy or something. Like I said, I'm not too familiar with this area. But it's not supposed to be like this. And this heat was coming all the way from Africa. All the way from Africa. And along the way, it passes over the Mediterranean and picks up moisture. And so we're going to look at the humidity. What was the humidity on those days? So let's take a look at that. Alright, so it's dry air over Africa, but it moves over the Mediterranean and picks up humidity. And now you're dealing with dew points in the 60s. And maybe even some 70-degree dew points. Look at this humidity all the way over here. So it's picking up moisture. It's actually making the air mass even more uncomfortable. You know, this is in a place where a lot of these places don't have air conditioning. You know, people are dying because of the heat, because they're not used to it, and they're going to have people are, you know, buying air conditioners, but they have to adapt their power grids for it. They're going to have to adapt because the climate's changing. No more cool summers in Europe. It's going to be hot summers now. Hot and humid, perhaps even worse than here, because they have Africa, which is like one big desert here. The heat's just coming right off the Sahara and going into Europe. Which is actually, we could change this to perceived temperature. All right, so this is what it's going to feel like. So in much of France, it felt like it was in the 100s, even up to Paris. And that's because of the humidity. Look at these. Look at these. Some of these feels like temperatures, well into the triple digits. Let's Let's take a look at some of the other dates of this heat wave. So this is a historic heat wave. I wanted to spend a little time on it because it was very historic. We'll just change this back to actual temperatures, but very historic heat wave. 90s in Paris. Yeah, this is the day that Brussels got hot. I think Brussels got very hot too. The Netherlands, not supposed to be like this. It's not supposed to be this hot in any of these places. Germany, Berlin, 93, 90s, mid-90s. It's not supposed to be like that. But this again, because we have these wavy jet streams, and because of that, these hot air masses are moving much further north than they're supposed to. Let's look at the dew points that day. We also had some humidity. Look at this. Dew points close to 70. Combine that with triple digits. Imagine how oppressive that is. and there's no air conditioning in a lot of these places, and people are going to die from the heat. They're not used to these kind of conditions. But it's happening very quickly at like the flip of a switch. All of a sudden, Europe is now having brutal summers. So if you're thinking of going to Europe to escape the heat, you're leaving the fryer pan and going right into the fryer, right? Because the heat is there too, even worse than here. Because again, you have Africa and you have the Mediterranean. So you have Africa, the heat coming off Africa, coming up, going over the Mediterranean, picking up humidity, picking up moisture. That water gets warm, and then moves over Europe. Who knows? Maybe we're going to start seeing cyclones. I don't know what they would call a hurricane in Europe, but we might even start seeing hurricanes start forming in the Mediterranean, which I don't think has ever happened, but I think we're going to start seeing that because of these water temperatures warming up. I really do. I really do. Let's go to the 24th, 23rd. You see how many days? This was a real heat wave. It was extended throughout much of June. So you think of all the heat here that's going on. It's absolutely insane. And look at how far. Here's Moscow. Here is Moscow. It's almost 90 degrees in Moscow. That's not a place that's supposed to get that hot. So this is what I mean. We're a serious climate emergency. Things are getting really out of hand, and there really aren't many places you can run at this point. Look at the humidity. Yeah, this was on the 23rd. Look at the humidity going all the way up. Look at this humidity going all the way up into northern Russia, into I think Latvia or Estonia or something like that. It's never supposed to get like that over there. So the Arctic boreal forests are burning, and losing these forests because of the heat is just gonna. They're not adapted to this, and it's going to be devastating. You're going to have a lot of forests burning down, and those forests are going to have to adapt to more fire-resilient species of trees in order for them to survive. Otherwise, it's not going to be good. It's not going to be good at all. So, what can I tell you? It's not going to be a good situation. So, next we look at the Arctic sea ice analysis, which is not good, not in a good situation at all. So the melt season shifts into high gear, and here's the key here: Arctic sea ice loss ramped up, and the extent of the month fell below the 2012 minimum record. That was the year in which the lowest September ice extent in the satellite record pattern. September is usually when it's at its lowest, and we are below that. So this is what's scary here. Look at this. So you see, anything that's not bright white is probably going to melt. And you might just have a few patches of ice left in this area. And even that is not a guarantee. We may wind up seeing all of it disappear this year. We're going to get very close to a blue ocean event this year. I won't even be surprised if it happens this year. But maybe next year. And once that happens, things are going to... The rate at which the climate is going to change is going to get even worse, which is really scary. We are in the fight of our lives against climate change, and everybody, particularly in the American media, they're just blissfully unaware of how serious the situation really is. And it's really bad. It's a really bad situation. That's all I have to say. People need to wake up about this because there are a lot of parts of the world that are going to become uninhabitable, and there's going to be mass migrations of people to cooler places. I really honestly think that one of those places people are going to wind up going to is probably Greenland, because once they start losing all their ice in Greenland, we're going to... let's just look at this for a minute. You can see the smoke here. That's what I want to show you. So you can see the smoke right here. I'll make this a little longer here. You can see the smoke right there. So, yep, see the smoke. But anyway, one of those places people might wind up moving to is Greenland. People are going to be moving to the mountains. And the thing is, even moving north to like Siberia, that's not going to be escape from the heat. Siberia is going to become a hot place. It's going to become a hot place. And the places you're going to have to go to escape the worst of the heat are in the mountains, or in Greenland, or maybe Antarctica. We're going to see huge population shifts, and humanity is going to be brought to its knees. It's unfortunate that there is not enough urgency being brought about this climate emergency that we're in, but This is what we're dealing with, and it's up to you, the people, to throw these people out. If they only care about Wall Street and big oil, they need to be thrown out. We need to put people in there. They're going to finally put this climate crisis at the forefront. It is the most important issue in this country and in this world, and it needs to be addressed immediately. Anyway, thank you for watching this climate update. Take care.